This is the big one. This is why the people have flocked over the border from nearby France. This is why half of Barcelona is here this afternoon. It's the MotoGP race. It's round 5 of the World Championship. It's 25 laps. And this is the man that the hopes of the Catalan nation rest on. They're pretty capable shoulders. He leads the World Championship by 10 points. He's won 2 Grand Prix already this season. Rossi Gibernau, his moment has arrived. Let's have a look at the rear tyre. And there's going to be plenty of looks at rear tyres, or plenty of telemetry about rear tyres during this race. They are going to be vital. It's hot and sticky down there. The track a little bit bumpy because they have Formula 1 cars here as well. And tyres are going to play a vital part of the race. It was interesting in the press conference yesterday. Both Gibernau and Rossi said from the front row that they were going to take it cagily. They were going to take it easily because you never know what is going to happen. You've got to protect your tyres. Nicky Hayden in 3rd place said they're liars. They won't do that. They just go for it.
The Qatari Prime Minister here this weekend. And a huge delegation from the Qatar circuit, the Losail International Circuit, coming on very well. We're here out there. The facility is absolutely top class. The track top class as well. And we're looking forward very much to going out there later in October for round 13 of the MotoGP World Championship. Will Gibernau still be leading by that point?
It's hot here. It's going to be even hotter there. They say 35 to 38 degrees while the race is being run in the afternoon, so that's going to be very interesting indeed. Nicky Hayden just checking he's got good hotel accommodation there, look, from the front row of the grid. But yeah, Nicky Hayden said, Rossi and Gibernau both said, well, they're going to take it easy early in the race. You've got to look after your tyres, you've got to be careful. Hayden said, they're liars. He said, they said that at Mugello, and they just went for it. He said, there's no chance of them taking it easy, so who knows what's going to happen in this race, but there is no doubt tyres are going to play a big part in it. But we've seen the likes of Gibernau, certainly Rossi and a few others. The looser the tyres get, the less grip they get, the harder they seem to be able to ride. And that's I think, the difference between good MotoGP riders, isn't it? People who can do it in qualifying and what have you, but riders who can ride like this man when the tyres go off. And there's no better man in the world that can do that. The world champion, Valentino Rossi, 2nd on the grid.
Yeah, Rossi, of course, one of the real merchants of rear tyre sliding and using the tyre well when it goes off. Rossi Gibernau as well, so easy on the throttle, so controlled. That's why he's so good in the wet, Rossi Gibernau. It's going to help him today, that style in the dry. Just really being kind on that rear tyre and not spinning it up too much. It could be a worry for Nicky Hayden. He does have that style of sliding it around from dirt track, which can be very, very advantageous in certain situations. But it's a learning process for Nicky Hayden, and he's learning how to use that style to best effect. And you know, this is going to be a real learning race for him. If he can get away with Gibernau and Rossi, it will be a huge learning curve for him, and he will go on and kick on from here. Certainly, starting from 3rd place, you've got to say Nicky Hayden, he really, really must make a good start and get away with this group, because as you can imagine, as Nicky said himself at Mugello last week, they get away fast at the front.
I'm down here actually on the grid with Nicky Hayden as we talk about him at the moment. And Nicky, great that you're on the front row again, isn't it? It's good news for you to be up there fighting from the off.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is. It's really important now to start with these guys and try to get away with them. So yeah, happy to be on the front row, but looking forward to a good race. Need to back it up. This series qualifying is only the first part of it, and now's when it counts. So feel pretty good. Bike is coming better this morning. I was only 13th quick, but we're gonna try to get off with them and just leave it all right here in Spain.
Those boys next to you said they're going to conserve their tyres. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I hope they do. Yeah, that'd be nice. Slow down, wait on everybody. But I'm sure for me it's just going to be green flag drops, go for it, because right now I'm not really at the level to be real conservative or doing anything like that. So I'm just going to have to drop the hammer and try to go to the front.
Okay, thanks very much, Nick.
Yeah, thank you.
Nicky Hayden there on the front row talking to our roving pit lane reporter Gavin Emmett, and looking forward to what is going to be a hot and hard race here in the Barcelona sunshine. Nicky Hayden wants to get away at the front with them, and he's not the only one. Max Biaggi behind him in 4th place on the grid. He's going to want to make a good start as well. He's been very consistent in qualifying. Marco Melandri, Alex Barros, watch out for those guys coming through. Watch out for Ruben Jaus as well, 7th on the grid in front of his home crowd. Watch out for him coming through to that first corner.
He's crashed twice in the first qualifying session and once in the second qualifying session. and he still qualified 7th. A fantastic performance. We look at Valentino Rossi, another big race for him. They're all big races for him since he switched to Yamaha, and nobody will ever forget 7 days ago at Mugello in Italy when he won the race. It really was an absolutely superb victory in front of a very emotional crowd, and I think those scenes would be followed here this afternoon if Sete Gibernau won the race. Plenty of personalities here watching the racing. MotoGP is so big in Spain. It ranks with everything. There'd be a good few footballers here, I think, if it wasn't for the Euro 2004 Championship, but they're otherwise engaged at the moment. Here is Nicky Hayden. Big race for him. He's got to transcribe these performances in qualifying into the races now. He's reached a certain level, as often happens. Now he's got to up that level and start really cutting it with the big boys, and I think we all feel he's very capable of doing that. Here is Max Biaggi.
Yeah, Max Biaggi on the second row. Starts from 4th place, but he's got good consistency here. He's won here before in the 250cc class. He knows what it's about to win here at Catalunya. He doesn't know what it's about to win in the MotoGP class this season. 2 seconds, 2/3 for Biaggi. Really wants to grab that second place in the championship back off Rossi.
And just down here on the grid, if you just bear with me breaking in there with 1993 500cc world champion on Suzuki, of course, Kevin Schwantz. Kevin, it's a fantastic event this, isn't it, the Catalunya Grand Prix? We can hardly hear ourselves think down here on the grid.
Yeah, it's amazing, all the people that are here, how much excitement there is. I mean, just being down here, not even having been on a motorcycle, it's amazing. There's just such a thrill in the air.
Where is your bet going today? Who are you going to be looking at? Obviously Sete and Valentino, but maybe a surprise, you think, somewhere along the line?
Well, yeah, I think Sete and Valentino are definitely the guys that the smart money would bet on. Nicky seems to have his bike sorted out pretty well for the race, as well does Matt. Of course, I'd like to see the Suzukis get up there and do well too, but I think we're going to be kind of restricted with tires and as to how far we can go into the race. But I think it's going to be a great race. If any of the 2 races so far are anything to indicate what it's going to be like, it's going to be exciting.
Thanks very much for talking to us, and great to see you here again, Kevin.
Thanks.
Kevin Schwantz, of course, the 1993 world champion. Mark Gini there, the Formula 1 driver, of course, the test driver with Williams. He'd be a bit shocked, I think, with all this overtaking. I wanted to get too worried about
I'm surprised he hasn't fainted after the 125s and 250s.
It's been a bit unfair, but there we are. Alex Barros. We say it's big race. It's a big race for him. Of course, he's replaced Valentino Rossi. He's 6th fastest. He's on that second row of the grid. I can hear Randy Mamola talking to him, I think, in the background somewhere along the line. But Alex Barros, he's almost there. He's almost back to full fitness. He's capable of winning races on the 4-strokes. Now's the time to do it.
This is a big time to do it as well for Ruben Jaus, the man who finished 2nd in the World Superbikes last year. The pre-event press conference on Thursday, he sat alongside Valentino Rossi, Sete Gibernau and Carlos Checa and said, "Someone take a photo, I want to show this to my grandkids." He can't believe he's here. If he couldn't believe he was on the pre-event press conference, I'm sure he can't believe he's in 7th on the grid. He's known for his aggressive riding. Watch out for him in that first corner. I'm sure the other riders will be. They'll be watching out for this man as well, John Hopkins.
Yeah, the American still recovering from that broken thumb he sustained a month ago at Le Mans in France, but he bravely rode to the 3rd row of the grid. John Hopkins. It was a brave ride by him because he is still in a lot of a pain riding Suzuki. Just look at that heat haze coming off the front straightaway here.
I'm just down actually with Hopkins at the moment, boys, if you just let me break in there. John, unbelievable. Up in 8th position. You missed the race last week with that broken thumb. How have you been feeling this weekend with that injury?
It's been, pretty tough. We ended up re-separating it on Friday, so just riding through the pain and doing the best I can. We'll see how it goes. We just want to get a really good start and put the Suzuki up top.
Everyone's been talking about these Bridgestones this week. There were problems last week. What confirmations have they given you, Bridgestone, this week?
They're really hard reinforced tires, so they're not the most competitive. They've had a short notice, so hopefully they can get it together and we'll be competitive at Assen for sure.
Thanks very much for talking to us and all the best, sir.
Thank you.
Kevin Schwantz down there, we just heard from him. He's jockeying around with Mick Doohan on the grid, of course, 2 former world champions. John Hopkins, we just heard from him, perhaps a future world champion, how he would love to follow in the footsteps of the king of slide. Kevin Schwantz further down on the grid, 10th place. Troy Bayliss, the Australian, getting better and better as the season goes on, the 35-year-old. Just getting to grips with that Ducati. They had a big test at Mugello after the race on Monday, so it was a hectic time really, coming straight here from Mugello. Oh, sorry, Tuesday, in fact, they tested. Just getting some more setup information for that GP4 Desmo Sedici machine that they've had so many setup problems with. But Bayliss making progress, 10th quickest today, and just over a second off the pole time of Gibernau.
Just walking around the grid, an interesting thing for our viewers. Just looking at the rear tyre of Nicky Hayden and Valentino Rossi, they've both been used, the tyres that have been out on the track before. Sete Gibernau's hasn't, but what Michelin have been doing recently is, in the warm-up in the morning, they've been getting the guys to use the tyre that they're going to use in the race for a single lap, 1 or 2 laps maybe. And Michelin believe it actually, when it cools down and then gets heated up again for the race, it actually reinforces it, makes it stronger, makes it more consistent, makes it last a bit longer. So it's quite interesting to see that we've got guys on the front row of the grid using tyres that they've actually already used. Gibernau might not have used one already because his looks brand new, but Hayden's and Rossi's definitely have been through that process, which sort of galvanises the rear tyre a bit.
Well, that will be interesting to keep an eye on later in the race, Gav, that's for sure, because it's all going to come down to that in the last few laps. Tyres so crucial here at this circuit in any case, but certainly in these conditions. It's touching 30 degrees here. The heat is rising. Can Sete Gibernau live with it?
Okay, hold on to your seatbelts. Here we go, 25 laps, the Circuit de Catalunya. What a front row. Gibernau, Rossi, Hayden.
Second row led by Max Biaggi from Marco Melandri and Alex Barros.
Third row, Chaus, Hopkins, Tamada. Watch out the first 2 rows.
Row 4, Troy Bayliss, Colin Edwards, the 2 World Superbike battlers from Carlos Checa.
And the 5th row, Nakano, Hoffman and Caparossi.
Row 6, Roberts, Hodgson, Arbe. Row 7, McWilliams, Byrne, Lavia. 8, Andrew Pitt, Curtis Roberts and Nobuatsu Aoki. And row 9, Michel Fabrizio. And Chris Burns, who qualifies on the final WCM machine there. And here they come, the MotoGP boys, for their warm-up lap. It couldn't get much warmer here at Catalunya. The sun is shining. It's around 30 degrees. And as I say, the heat is rising off the track. It's rising on the track. Can Sete Gibernau keep his cool?
They're on the warm-up lap. Just remember that race last weekend at Mugello. 85 Italians screaming, shouting, jumping up and down, urging on the man himself, Valentino Rossi, to win the race. 7 days later, we're in Barcelona. 105,000 Catalonians screaming, shouting, jumping up and down, urging on Sete Gibernau. It's the head-to-head between the 2 top riders in the world at the moment. Can anybody get in there and spoil the party? Perhaps this man, Nicky Hayden. I've got a sneaking suspicion that Max Biaggi, although he didn't improve his qualifying times on Saturday, put in a lot of very good laps. Didn't go out on the final qualifying tyre. Look out also for the start. I think everybody's looking for the start of Ruben Chaus from the 3rd row of the grid, especially the men on the front row and the 2nd row. That could be very interesting. The first bend here could be an absolute corker. Let's just hope everybody gets through safely.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, the interest in this, Nick, reflected really by the hospitality across from us. Now, often we can't see that, but from our vantage point here at the top of the stand, we can see the hospitality and VIP area, where there tends to be a lot more drinking and chatting going on than actually watching the racing. And looking out there, the tables are empty, the bar's empty, people are pressed up against the windows, they're hanging over the edge of the VIP area. On top of the pit building there, on top of the control tower. There's people climbing up fences all around the circuit they're hanging over. It's absolutely incredible. Everybody wants to see this. And as you say, Nick, that first corner is going to be something special.
There is no doubt the MotoGP show is the greatest motorsport show in the world at the moment. Those opening 4 rounds of the championship have been superb. We have a championship leader in Sete Gibernau. He's just secured his 3rd consecutive pole position. He's riding in front of his home crowd. It does not get a lot better than that. 25 laps of this 4.727 kilometre, 2.937 mile Circuit de Catalunya. Barcelona holds its breath. Can Sete Gibernau do it? Can Valentino Rossi spoil the party here in the sunshine? The grid forms up. The red flag still being shown. It's round 5 of the MotoGP World Championship. The green flag is now being shown. The lights will go to red any moment now. They're on red. The Grand Prix of Catalonia is underway. Looks like a great start by Rossi.
Good start by Rossi, but Gibernau's also got away well. Look at Joust on that number 11 Ducati. Joust going into the first corner as hard as he can, but it's Gibernau on the Honda from Biaggi, and Rossi around the outside. Rossi sweeps around the outside to take the lead.
Everybody safely through. Valentino Rossi leads the way through the left-hander. They're now coming to the fast right-hander. Great start by Coast. Here we are. Rossi, Gibernau, Biaggi, Tamada, Barros, Bailey, South, Hopkins, Melandri, Hodgson, Checker, Caparossi. Not such a good start by the man who won the race last year. But Rossi leads the way. It looks like Tamada in fourth place, Nicky Hayden in fifth.
Yeah, Makoto Tamada getting a superb start from the third row, and there's a man off track there. That's Capirossi. I'm sure that's Loris Capirossi on the Ducati. But yeah, Makoto Tamada coming from ninth on the grid on the third row, comes through to take fourth. Nicky Hayden, not quite the start that he wanted, but he's up there with the front boys, and that's where he wanted to be on. Sorry, that's Alex Barros in fact in fifth place. So Hayden in fact getting a bad start, and in fact Hayden not even on our screens at the moment. There he is behind the Kawasaki's. Something seriously wrong there for Nicky Hayden.
They come onto the back straight for the first time. 150 miles an hour, accelerate for the left-hander. Rossi still leads the way. Gibernau behind him. Then the two Camel Hondas, the two yellow Camel Hondas. Former winner, Carlos Checker, number 7 on the Yamaha. Won the race here in 1996 on the 4-stroke. Up into the stadium section. These fast right-handers. Rossi leads. Gibernau second. Will this be the same position in 25 laps time? Marco Melandri, Ruben Chaus going through. Neil Hodgson, Colin Edwards a little bit further down, and Nicky Hayden having to make up for a bad start, but a good start by Alex Barros.
Across the line for the first time, 24 laps to go, and Valentino Rossi, the world champion, leads the way from Sete Gibernau onto the brakes. There go at the end of the straight. Gibernau looking to take an early advantage back from Rossi, not quite close enough on the brakes, and Rossi continues to lead through this sweeping fast left and then right, up through the double fast right-hander. The rear tyres spin up as they exit this, and then they come up to the Repsol corner, a tight right-hander onto the brakes, down through the gearbox into second gear, around 65 miles an hour.
And just confirmation, it was Loris Capirossi that went off, because Troy Bayliss currently is in 12th place. So Capirossi, who had problems, we saw in the morning warm-up and qualifying yesterday, similar problems. It's got a familiar ring to it at the front though, hasn't it? They're at it again, and in the sunshine. It's not Mugello, it's Barcelona, but it's Valentino Rossi, and it's Sete Gibernau. Just sit back and enjoy.
Well, we saw this just 7 days ago at Mugello in Italy. Rossi and Gibernau setting the pace as they have done in qualifying all weekend, and Rossi gets into all sorts of shapes there, runs it wide on the tight left-hander into the stadium section. Gibernau says thank you very much. Max Biaggi not quite close enough to take advantage, but problems there for Rossi.
Yeah, that's the tight left-hander that's so vital to get right, because you're into the stadium section. They're on their feet. They're supporting the man from Catalonia. Sete Gibernau leads for the first time. Let's watch it again. Rossi runs it very wide. Opens the door for Gibernau to come through.
Yeah, it was just before that, Nick, on the brakes here. You can see Rossi's rear tyre just stepping out at the back a little bit. Maybe just a bit hard for the opening laps here of the race. As we heard from Gav, they worked very hard with Michelin to ensure that that tyre stays as firm as possible in these hot conditions. And perhaps there just a little bit for Valentino Rossi. It didn't work in his favour. It just stepped out a little bit, and then Rossi was forced wide, but he's really back on the pace now and putting pressure on Sete Gibernau once again. We're on board with Gibernau, the rear camera of that Honda V5, looking down on that inline 4 Yamaha of Valentino Rossi.
And Alex Barros moving up in front of Tamada. Alex Barros now up into 4th place for the Makoto Tamada, but we ride with the race leader. There is Valentino Rossi just tucked in behind him, that familiar 46. Not on a Repsol Honda, on a blue Galois Yamaha.
Nicky Hayden looking to make progress through the field. He's down in 15th place behind Shinya Nakano and Neil Hodgson. Nakano's just overtaken Hodgson, in fact. We're going to get a glimpse now. There they are. There goes Nakano. There's Hodgson. There's Hayden. Really disappointing start for the young former AMA Superbike champion. His brothers Tommy and Roger Lee, no race for them this weekend in the AMA. They're watching back in Kentucky, and I'm sorry to say, boys, your brother's down in 15th place after starting from the front row of the grid. And the men who are setting the pace in MotoGP, as they have done all season, is the Spaniard Sete Gibernau on that number 15 Honda, Rossi on that 46 Yamaha, and Biaggi on that number 3 Honda, trying desperately now to stay with this pace at the front.
Across the line, 22 laps to go, long way, down the start and finish straight, about 335, 336 kilometers an hour, well over 200 miles an hour before they break for the right and left kink. Gibernau holds firm as they go through the right, then the left, then there's the gap, there's Biaggi and Barros. And they have Tamada, Melandri, who's been making good starts recently, but he's got real problems with his arm pumping up at the moment and slows him up. And Ruben Chaus, he is absolutely flying in 7th place. He really is having a great MotoGP season. He's a breath of fresh air. Did Gibernau make a bit of a mistake? They certainly ran it a bit wide. Rossi got up the inside. He didn't take the lead, but that's an encouraging side for the Italian in 2nd place. We're, 3 laps into the race, and already they're beginning to slip and slide a bit.
Well, there you go, the new circuit record already has been set by Sete Gibernau, 144.641, over 8/10 of a second inside the previous record held by Valentino Rossi. We expected that record to fall, perhaps not so soon. As we were saying before, those hard tyres making it difficult for these guys at the start of the race, but the absolutely necessary to put up with the track temperatures here at Catalunya.
Gibernau leads, Rossi 2nd, Biaggi 3rd, coming under a little bit of pressure there from Alex Barros. Behind Barros, Marco Melandri, and really this leading group, at the back of the leading group, Makoto Tamada, teammate to Max Biaggi. As they round the right-handers, back into the start and finish straight. Fastest part of the circuit. Up into 6th gear as quick as you can go. Head under the fairing. 200 miles an hour. We ride with Rossi. What a shot. Will he get up the inside on the brakes? He's thinking about it. He's still thinking about it. But Gibernau just leaves his braking a little bit later. Barros still trying to get past Biaggi. Melandri coming under real pressure there from Tamada. Tamada, who actually led the race last week in Mugello before he was sidelined with tyre problems. But at the front, it's the two everybody wants to see, not only here, but throughout the world on their television screens. Sete Gibernau, Valentino Rossi out to play.
There goes
again
Alex
on a
Barros.
Sunday afternoon, and Barros up into 3rd.
Yeah, Barros on the inside of Biaggi on the brakes, and Barros, really this his 2nd home Grand Prix, the Brazilian, of course, from Sao Paulo. We race in Rio later in the year, but he lives in Barcelona. Here comes Marco Melandri, the Italian, up on the inside of his compatriot Biaggi as well, the two former 250 world champions going head to head there, but it's Melandri who gets past Biaggi. Melandri now to 4th place, Barros in 3rd, Melandri 4th, Biaggi 5th, and Tamada 6th.
Well, that obviously caught him a little bit by surprise. There's Ruben Chaus, Carlos Checa, Roy Bayliss.
Colin Edwards there, he's been having some serious problems this weekend with front end chatter. He's been suffering from it all season, but particularly at this circuit, it works the front end of the bike so hard. And particularly through this section now, we will see now how these bikes work the front end. Coming round this long right-hander at the top, 2nd gear all the way, but it's these 2 corners coming down now. 2 third gears, and there's a man down, and that is Alex Barros. I'm sure Alex Barros on the Honda has done.
Big cloud of dust, he's perfectly okay. He was just up into 3rd place. Bitter disappointment for the Brazilian.
Alex Barros there at the front of that 2nd route, just the front end took just what we were talking about. Just as they go through that stadium section, the front end is worked so hard there, and Alex Barros didn't stand up to it, and the Brazilian continues a miserable start to 2004.
So that moves Melandri up to 3rd, Biaggi 4, Tamada 5, South 6, Checker 7, Bayliss 8, Roberts 9, Edwards 10, Hopkins 11, Hayden 12, Nakano 13, 14 Hodgson, and Hoffman in 15th place.
Into the pits comes Curtis Roberts. He looks like he might be coming in to retire. He's just stopping in front of his garage at the moment, talking to his mechanics. He hasn't got off the bike at the moment, but more problems for Proton Team KR with Curtis Roberts coming into the pits here in Catalunya.
Marco Melandri now riding extremely well in 3rd place, following his good friend and factory colleague Valentino Rossi. Tamada and Biaggi, the 2 Camel Hondas, one on Michelin's, that's Biaggi, one on Bridgestone's, that's Tamada. He had to retire, of course, in Mugello 1 week ago when those Bridgestone tyres packed in None more so than Shinya Nakano's Kawasaki. That rear tyre exploded, spat the Japanese rider off. And if you've missed the news this week, glad to report that Shinya Nakano, fit and well and riding here this weekend, currently lapping in 13th place. He's been overtaken by Nicky Hayden. Hayden's up to 12th place, Hopkins 11th, and Hayden, I'm sure, will have Hopkins in his sights. He's what, less than 1/10 of a second behind him.
There is Curtis Roberts out of the race. Just look at those tyre choices. Gibernau, front, obviously medium, rear, soft. Rossi, front, medium, rear, soft. Biaggi, front, medium, rear, soft. Barros, who's crashed out, had a rear medium. Carlos Checa has a rear medium. Colin Edwards also has a soft rear. But the three main men up there at the moment, though, I looked out for Marco Melandri, and he has gone for the medium front, obviously, and he has also gone for a soft rear. For those first three are on soft rear tyres. That's news just coming through from Michelin.
Sete Gibernau, then, as you can see, confirmation of that front tyre 16.5, as all the MotoGP riders now use. Soft rear tyre, obviously slicks, no doubt about that one. The only time there was any confusion about which tyres they'll be using was at Mugello last week, of course, and they all went for slicks in that second wet race, and a lot of discussion here at Catalunya this weekend about that. The riders talking about maybe having half points for the first race, half points for the second, and all sorts of controversy about that. The riders met up with the Grand Prix Commission last night at 5:30 here at the Barcelona circuit to talk about it. But at the moment, the rules stand as they are. No doubt here that we're going to have a dry race all the way through, despite some early worries this morning when the black clouds came and left. And we've got bright sunshine, high temperatures, and Gav, instead of a rainmate down there, we need some suntan lotion, I would imagine.
Yeah, and that's why it's quite surprising that they're all on soft tyres at the moment. Alex Barros just going past on the other side of the straight at the moment on the back of a scooter coming back from his crash. But yeah, having them all on soft tyres is quite interesting. We've had temperatures reaching 50 to 60 degrees Celsius on the track this weekend, and really it does work the tyres so much, this circuit, that I'm very surprised with the amount they smoke the tyres as they go through those Renault and Repsol turns 3, 4 and 5 through there. I'm just very surprised they've all gone with those soft tyres. Maybe they will pay the price later on in the race, but if they're all running the same tyres, they're all going to have the same problems to work with. It could just make things much more interesting for those of us watching it from this side of the pit lane.
18 laps to go. Gibernau still leads the way from Rossi. This is the battle for third place. Marco Melandri leads Max Biaggi. Both former 250cc winners here, and both former 250cc world champions. But at the front, the familiar ring, the familiar pattern. Sete Gibernau and Valentino Rossi slog it out in the sunshine. Yet another classic MotoGP battle. As Rossi just trying to put a bit of pressure on Gibernau.
I think they touched there, Nick. Rossi and Gibernau got very, very close indeed now. As they head down to these fast left-handers and then into the tight left-hander, they got very, very close indeed. I think we're going to see it again. Here, this is Rossi trying to go around the outside. Well, they didn't touch, in fact. It's Rossi again struggling for rear tyre grip on the braking into the corner. And that seems to be a real problem for him so far. And it just really brings back memories of 1 year ago, doesn't it, Nick, at this circuit? Rossi then on the Honda, of course, fighting with Loris Capirossi for the victory on that occasion. And he made a couple of similar mistakes where he ran it wide through the corner, didn't quite seem to have it in full control, ran off track, came back in 7th, and eventually came through to take 2nd place.
Got all the hard work to do again, Valentino Rossi. He will do the hard work. But it's taken more and more out of his tyres as he just has to reduce the gap between him and Sete Gibernau. Second right-hander into the start and finish across the line, 17 laps to go. The Grand Prix of Catalunya, round 5 of the MotoGP World Championship. There we go, 17 to go. You get it from the horse's mouth. Fastest part of the circuit, down the straight. Now this is the battle for third. Marco Melandri, problems with his arm pumping up. Starts the race as well, but then real pain takes over. Can he hang in there? Because he's holding off Max Biaggi at the moment. Max Biaggi currently in 4th place.
Yeah, Marco Melandri planning on having an arm pump operation, probably after Donington, just before the start of the summer break. But Hervé Ponchal, his team manager, trying to convince Melandri to perhaps have it a bit earlier because it's really, really starting to affect him now. Melandri's had that problem for about 4 years since he was riding in the 250s. Tony Elias had a very similar operation just before the Italian race. and the pressure now starting to build on Melandri to have that done sooner rather than later, because we can all see what talent he's got and how well he rides that 4-stroke Yamaha in the early parts of the races until that arm pump takes over. And he's just now looking at all the options. He's been to America, or he's planning to go to America this week to go and speak to a few doctors over there. He's been chatting to doctors in Italy and England as well, and just getting as much information as he can about the type of operations that can be done. Of course, that arm pump operation has been done by many MotoGP riders over the years. It's just a simple operation that basically they slit the membrane sleeve around the forearm muscle, because the forearm muscle gets so pumped up during these races trying to control these 240 horsepower bikes that it has nowhere to go. It expands to the point where it can't expand anymore. You end up getting trapped nerves and things like that in the arm and in the joints, and then you just don't have the feeling and the movement in it towards the end of the race. And Kenny Roberts had the operation last year as well, and Marco Melandri is going to have that operation done soon. Can he hang on? There's 16 laps for him to do so. He's in 3rd place at the moment. He's 3 seconds down on Valentino Rossi in 2nd place. He's a second ahead of Max Biaggi in 4th place. He's currently lapping quicker than Max Biaggi, but Biaggi and Tamada will be lurking to take advantage if those arm pump problems do get the better of Melandri.
Have a look at Carlos Checa, former winner here, currently in 6th place. His teammate to Marco Melandri. Well, certainly they're both riding Yamahas. And look at his gear changing foot for Carlos Checa. A lot of gear changes there are at this circuit. Just see how hard he works. Now, Matthew and I went Grand Prix riders, but he's been to the racing school. Ball of the foot, isn't it? On the footrest, Matthew, you were telling me. Lon Haslam's racing school. There we are. It's a perfect illustration.
Yeah, that's what you tell you. As you can see, Checa there using the ball of his left foot on the outside of the peg to control the bike. There's Alex Barros, of course, crashed out just a few laps ago. Huge disappointment for him. He was gutted at Mugello last week when he was stopped. He was in 4th place. He was closing down Max Biaggi for that final podium slot when the race was stopped. He really felt he was going to catch Biaggi, and then he struggled in the wet conditions in the 2nd race, and that will not go down too well with HRC. They've got Barros out of the race. They've got Hayden, who's now down in 11th place. He's got past John Hopkins, Shinya Nakano and Neil Hodgson, so Hayden up to 11th place, but really that not what HRC have come to expect after so many years of success with Mick Doohan, Alex Crivier, Valentino Rossi, and Alex Barros was generally regarded to be their saviour this year. He won 2 races out of 4 on the V500 at the end of the 2002 season before spending a season with Yamaha last year. He came back to Honda this year. He's had 1 podium finish so far from 5 races, and that is a disappointing start to the season for him.
We ride with Sete Gibernau, 15 laps to go. He's the race leader. We now ride with Valentino Rossi, the man in 2nd place. They couldn't be closer. Both of them have taken their turn at the lead. Both of them have made slight mistakes. Valentino Rossi a bigger mistake, and Gibernau took the lead. He ran it wide on the brakes. This is a difficult circuit. And Rossi now beginning to put a little bit of pressure on Sete Gibernau at the front. We are lap 10 of 25. Gibernau, Rossi, Melandri, Biaggi, Tamada, Checa.
Just looking down the order there, Biaggi and Tamada have come really close. They were going down the straight, they're almost side by side going down there. Tamada's closed the gap on Max Biaggi in 4th place, the 2 Camel Honda teammates, of course. Biaggi's on the Michelins, remember, though, and Tamada's on those Bridgestones that have just been flown over from Japan this week after that crash for Nakano. Had 3 days to produce some new tyres, some safer tyres, and a lot harder tyres as well. And with this heat coming down, I just wonder whether, Tamada might be having a better rear tyre at the moment than Max Biaggi. I don't know what you guys might think about that.
Well, there he is. There's the evidence. Tamada really starting to close on Biaggi now. And I'm surprised by this because Biaggi, we thought, I was sure that Biaggi could run a race pace with Gibernau and Rossi. We've seen him in qualifying doing 144s basically all the way through the sessions. And it was Biaggi really was the only man other than Gibernau and Rossi who could put together those 44s consistently. He did a session yesterday of 7 laps, one after the other in 144s. This race has been running the 145s. And I really would have thought that Max Biaggi could lap around 6/10, 7/10 per lap quicker than that comfortably without even pushing too hard. At the moment he's struggling. He's in 146.2 on that lap, and something's going wrong there for Max Biaggi.
Yeah, these 2 men are lapping still in the 145s. We ride with Valentino Rossi. In front of him, Sete Gibernau. I can tell you, Matthew's a bit careful with his money, but he had some money on Max Biaggi in the sweepstake. Changed it at the last minute. That's why he's so disappointed.
Well, actually, no, I'm not too disappointed in it because I changed it from Alex Barros to Max Biaggi.
Oh, yes, yes.
I've probably got more of a chance now, so we don't worry about that too much. There we on board with Rossi again, and it just seems to me, Nick, that after a couple of scares there for Valentino Rossi, he's just got himself together again now. He started to put his rhythm together. He's got back on Gibernau's case, and Gibernau is not going to shake him off.
Now it comes a real battle of tactics. Who's protecting their tyres the most? Both of them will be working out who's stronger in certain places, where the best position would be to be when they come into that last lap. You may not want to be leading the race. Who's faster at the end of the main straight? Who's faster coming around those right-handers back into the start and finish straight? The difference here between here and Mugello is that the start and finish line is much, much nearer the last corner into the straight, and Mugello is a long, long way in, and I think that's why Gibernau thought that he would have beaten Rossi in the dry last week before the race was stopped. Here, he didn't get that sort of run towards the line, so it could be a very, very different proposition. And you've got to say, Yamaha have not seen anything like this since the likes of Wayne Rainey, 11 years ago. Wayne Rainey here watching this afternoon, and Yamaha have not seen a man capable of riding their machines in similar style for a long, long time than the world champion Valentino Rossi. And once again, he fights it out with
Tamada's coming into the pits now. Makoto Tamada, obviously we've just been talking about him closing in on Max Biaggi. I wonder if it's tyre problems. His team were really surprised he's coming in, he's just coming straight into the box. They're shutting it down. I'm sure that must be a tyre problem.
Well, this is the battle for 7th place. There is Makoto Tamada, absolutely distraught with that situation. He was doing so well. Couldn't ask for more from the Japanese rider. Mugello was impressive a week ago. This is the battle for 7th place between Troy Bayliss and Colin Edwards. Well, we got so used to seeing those two going together, didn't we, in the World Superbikes? In those days they were battling for victories, but this is a whole new league. This is the Premier League of motorcycle racing, and Bayliss and Edwards, you have to say, struggling at the moment. Behind them, Shinji Nakano and Nicky Hayden having a real old battle. Hayden on the Honda, Nakano on the Kawasaki. Nakano riding so bravely after that tyre blowout at Mugello 1 week ago.
That's interesting, isn't it? Tamada going into the pits. We don't know, it's not confirmed that it's a tyre problem, but the way he rode into the garage and they closed the door down, you would think it may be. So, what do Bridgestone do? What do Kawasaki do about the men that are all still out there? That is a very worrying proposition. Interesting to see, and perhaps, Gavin, you could just have a look at some of the boards.
Well, just letting you know that Gary Taylor, the team manager for Suzuki, has made his way down to the Camel Honda box, and obviously it's very interesting for Suzuki. They've got two Bridgestone guys out there. Down here is one of the Kawasaki mechanics as well, because Shinji Nakano, Alex Hoffman, they're both on Bridgestone. There's an absolute gaggle of people around the Camel Honda box wanting to know, is that a tyre problem? Is it a bike problem? And we'll see now, I expect, in the next few seconds.
Well, at the moment, Kenny Roberts is in 11th place. Shinji Nakano is in 9th place. Nicky Hayden's 10th. Roberts 11th. Hopkins 12th. So those three Bridgestone riders, Nakano, Roberts and Hopkins, mixing it up with Nicky Hayden, and there would be a huge disappointment for them if they did have to pull out of this race. Now Valentino Rossi coming through those fast rights. You can see how he's spinning that rear tyre up now. These tyres getting hotter and hotter, and Gibernau runs it wide, and the Rossi fans are on their feet as Rossi takes the lead. Look at him slide that Yamaha. Absolutely incredible stuff from Valentino Rossi. He leads Gibernau now as they tip it into the left-hander.
Oh, what a ride by Rossi. Sideways on the power. Gibernau made a little bit of a mistake. Rossi grabs his big chance. Let's look at it again. Gibernau a bit wide. Now Rossi round the right. Gets the whole thing sideways. The rear wheel spinning. Valentino Rossi at his best. Gibernau touching behind them. They're coming on to the back straight. About 150 miles an hour now before they break for this difficult left-hander.
I just had a word with Mr. Yamada, the chief engineer for Bridgestone here at the races. He reckons that Makoto Tamada's problem wasn't with the tyre, so they're not too worried about it at the moment.
Well, that's good news for Suzuki, good news for Kawasaki. Remember, both of those on Bridgestone tyres as well. Nakano in 9th place, having a great race. Roberts in 11th and Hopkins on 12th. But the men at the front are Rossi and Gibernau. They're both on Michelins. One's on a Yamaha, one's on a Honda, and it's the Yamaha man who leads the way with 11 laps to go.
Over the start and finish line they come. Gibernau up the inside. Who's going to be bravest on the brakes? They're almost side by side as they brake for the right-hander. Gibernau, yes! Listen to the crowd. Sete Gibernau retakes the lead. Does he run it wide? No, he doesn't. He hangs on to the lead. Rossi has got it all to do once again.
This is where Rossi got him on the last time coming through this right-hander. Gibernau ran it wide on that occasion. He manages to hang on this time, keeps a tight line. Watch those rear tyre slide as they come out of the exit of that fast right Renault corner. Now then, down into the Repsol corner, around 65 miles an hour, second gear. Rossi couldn't be closer to Gibernau. Slightly onto the power, very, very briefly, and then into the left-hander. And Wayne Rainey, as you can see in the box, absolutely transfixed.
Loving every moment of it. He said yesterday, those MotoGP bikes, they do everything that we wanted a 500 to do, but they wouldn't. And a lot of admiration from all sides for the riders of the 90s and the riders of today. And the riders of today, without a doubt, are headed by these two, Sete Gibernau and Valentino Rossi, slogging it out in the sunshine once again. Just back to the tyres briefly again. I was talking to some tyre technicians earlier in the week, and they were saying although they were going through the speed trap at Mugello at about 338 kilometres an hour, 210, so the actual rear tyre was still spinning then, and the rear tyre was spinning up at about 360 kilometres an hour. That is real pressure on a very, very small part of rubber, and they still spin the tyres that much at that sort of speed, especially these two gentlemen at the front.
240 horsepower going through a patch of rubber, no wider than a credit card, and it's no surprise really that the tyres can't stand up to it. But the Michelin's doing extremely well here and standing up to it. Sete Gibernau standing up to it and standing up to some serious pressure from Valentino Rossi. Now then, Rossi, is he going to be close enough this time to man an attack? Not quite. He gets the inside line, but he's just not really close enough to Sete Gibernau. Then it's Melandri in third place, then a gap, and Carlos Checa has moved past Max Biaggi for fourth place. A roar went up from the Spanish crowd here then. Checa just lives a few miles from the circuit and he's on an absolute charge here. He was really fast in Friday afternoon qualifying. He couldn't match his time yesterday and he slid down the grid to 12th place, Carlos Checa, but he always had that promise of doing something in the race if he could put it together, and it looks as though he has done. He's got past his old teammate at Yamaha, Max Biaggi, and as I say, Checa now up to fourth place. 3 Yamahas in the top 4. It's a long time since you've been able to say something like that, and look at Max Biaggi sliding that Honda. That's not something we're accustomed to seeing from Max Biaggi, and perhaps a suggestion that the setup of that Honda is not quite how the Italian likes it.
Biaggi sliding it, as we say. The former 250 man as we speak. Rossi retakes the lead. Valentino Rossi back in front, 9.5 laps to go. There's absolutely nothing Sete Gibernau can do as he closes right up on the rear wheel of the Yamaha. But he can't do it. 2-all the score at the moment as far as Grand Prix go this season with these two. Well, who's going to get the clincher before we have a break? Before then, back-to-back races in Holland and Brazil. We cannot wait. Through the stadium section, Rossi leads the way round the right-hander. And again, it was Gibernau making a mistake. He ran it wide. They're making mistakes at the front. The tyres are going off. Is it going to be a race winner? Is the race winner the man that makes the less mistakes? I don't know. They cross the line. Rossi leads. That's the gap. Gibernau on the outside, then on the inside, on the brakes, from 200 miles an hour to 65 miles an hour.
Just talking to the Camel Honda team now, they reckon that Tabata has been coming because the tyre was deteriorating in performance every single lap. They didn't want to take any more risks. They wanted to show early on in the race that they could ride with the top guys once more. They showed in qualifying as well that they could be up there, but they didn't want to take any more risks during this race. So Tamada was up there, and then they basically, it sounded as if they even knew before the race that this was going to happen, and they just pulled him into the pits.
Well, safety first, the Camel Honda, and that's interesting. Bridgestone claiming that their tyres are fine. Camel Honda saying the opposite. They've got one rider on Bridgestone, Makoto Tamada, one on Michelin, that's Max Biaggi. Biaggi currently lapping in 5th place, and there's 3 of the men out there on Bridgestone. Shinji Nakano, who had that huge crash when his tyre exploded at Mugello 7 days ago. Kenny Roberts and John Hopkins. It will be interesting to see now, as you say, Gav, technicians from Kawasaki and Suzuki down there in Camel Honda asking what happened. If Camel Honda are telling you that their tyre blew, I'm sure they'll be telling Gary Taylor and the Kawasaki engineers and it will be interesting now what they say to their riders.
The tyre didn't actually blow. I think it was just a precautionary measure. They said that the performance was going down. That's what Tamada, the feedback that he gave. I just wonder whether there's a different compound being used by Suzuki, and it's really up to the riders whether, if they want to come in, if they feel that the performance isn't there, then they should come in. That's what basically Tamada is saying. He didn't feel the performance was there, so that's why he's come in.
This is when you're glad you're a commentator, isn't it? You haven't got to make those sort of decisions because they are big, big decisions. We will wait and see. But at the front, the two Michelin men, one on a Yamaha, one on a Honda, continue their merry way across the line. A merry way, sorry. 8 laps to go. Gibernau thinks about it, then decides not to try and outbreak Valentino Rossi into that left and right. The elf right, the elf left, and then to this long right-hander up towards the Repsol curve.
You know, Nick, the way these two guys are riding now, and you can watch how comfortable they both are going through those fast right-handers, spinning up the rear. Rossi on the Yamaha. We haven't seen that from the Yamaha for a long, long time. It's a huge credit to the two teams. Rossi's team, of course, led by Jeremy Burgess, and Gibernau's team. Look at the smoke coming off that rear tyre there. Gibernau's team, led by Juan Martinez, who used to be the suspension engineer for Valentino Rossi, working underneath Jeremy Burgess. So something in common there for both of them and their technical staff, and particularly at this circuit, which has got a bit of everything, as you can see now. This sweeping fast left and right, and then they're going to be hard on the brakes shortly into this third gear right-hander. This track so popular for testing because it has got a bit of everything, and they say that a bike that works well here will work well at any track. And Jeremy Burgess and the rest of the team worked so hard in the winter to get the bike working here. There's a yellow flag out there. It seems to be somebody with a few problems. It's not Marco Melandri, thankfully, in third place. It's Nicky Hayden.
Yeah,
Nicky Hayden.
I was just looking for Nicky Hayden. He's gone off the screen. He is gone, so it's Nicky Hayden. Is that a crash or a mechanical breakdown, Gavin?
I think it's a retirement. It seems that he didn't crash it. He just pulled up the bike by the side.
Okay, let's just quickly, it's so exciting at the front. Sometimes we don't do justice to the man behind. Let's have a look.
Yeah, just a minute. This is with Gibernau going into the stadium section. He tried to close and Rossi ran it wide on the exit. We get another look now from Rossi's onboard camera. That was Gibernau just getting too hot on the brakes there. But sorry, Rossi, Gibernau, and then a gap, Nick, of around over 7 seconds to Melandri and the rest of the field.
Just there we saw Gibernau running wide. We saw that last year from Valentino Rossi. We've seen it many times in the past at Catalunya. It's what the track does to the tyres that is the reason that we see them doing. We probably saw them at the beginning with about 5 or 6, 7 good laps on the tyres, and since then the performance is going down lap by lap and very, very sharply. They're both riding on the limits, on the rims almost of those tyres, and they're really having to work very, very hard indeed.
Gavin, what an illustration, as you said, that Rossi just smoking up that rear tyre, getting the Yamaha absolutely sideways. He's the king of swing, isn't he? There's 6.5 laps to go. It's going to be close, but let's just run through the field for you. Melandri third, Checker 4, Piaggi 5, Rubens Chout in 6th place. Troy Bayliss, great ride by him in 7th. Edwards 8th, Nakano 9, Roberts 10, Hopkins 11, Abe 12, Hoffman 13, Caparossi 14th, 15th place is Neil Hodgson, 16th place Shane Bird, Andrew Pitt on the Marawaki Honda in 17th place, Lavia in 18th place, and 19th place Fabrizio riding the WCM. Let battle commence at the front.
On board with Sete Gibernau up through the stadium section through the left, and then this series of right-handers. Rossi is working to extend the lead over him at the front. It was 0.8 of a second on the last lap. Gibernau's closed it down a bit. He's taken around 2 or 3 tenths off Rossi on this lap. What's it going to be now as they come round with just over 6 laps to go? They come through this final right-hand bend into the start-finish straight. Valentino Rossi leads the way. He crosses the line. Gibernau 0.5 of a second behind him, so Gibernau takes 3 tenths back off Rossi on that lap. But Rossi has got his head down, and Rossi is going for it here. 105,000 screaming Spaniards roar on their hero Sete Gibernau. He's something of an unexpected hero, really. After so many years in Grand Prix, he lived in the shadow of Alex Crivier. Crivier's retired, Gibernau's on the Honda, and Gibernau's leading the World Championship. And just watch that and enjoy it. Valentino Rossi on the Yamaha. I was saying before, Nick, how Jeremy Burgess and his team have worked so hard. We've got another retirement, Gav.
Yeah, Kenny Roberts is coming into the pit lane now, just as we might have expected. We'd seen Tamada come in, and he's pointing at his rear tyre straight onto it with his team. They're on there now. Yeah, problems with the rear tyre, just looking at the right-hand side of that rear tyre, and it really is bashed up, cut up, worn out. I'm not sure whether we're going to get a tyre change. Yeah, we are. They've got a new tyre coming out. Kenny Roberts will go out on track. He's obviously getting a lot of vibration out of that rear tyre, and they're going to try and get him back on as soon as they can and back into this race.
Yeah, there is Kenny Roberts now in pit lane, and we can see from that image of Valentino Rossi just before that, the replay that we've been really talking about the last few laps. It's that right-hander, the long right-hander that comes after the little chicane at the end of the straight, where the right-hand side of the tyre has worked so hard. They spin it up coming through that right-hander. Third gear around 85 miles an hour, but the tyre must be spinning at around, what, 120 or something like that as they come through. And it really wears down that side of the tyre, and it seems to be the Gav that's just taking its toll on the Bridgestones.
Yeah, that seems to be what have happened. We've got John Hopkins walking down the pit lane as well at the moment. Just seeing that, that's really surprised. We didn't even realise that Hopkins was out, but he's walking down pit lane now towards us, looking distraught with something, obviously problems with his bike. He's been in the gravel, definitely. Kenny Roberts, it was a very, very slick tyre change from then. Obviously, we're not used to seeing pit stops and tyre changes in MotoGP, but it was very, very slick, you have to say, from the Suzuki team, as Hopkins comes into pit lane now. Obviously, very, very angry.
5 laps to go. They're riding on their rims at the moment. Marco Melandri still in 3rd place, coming under pressure then from Carlos Checa. But Rossi and Gibernau at the front have no rubber left. They are just riding there. Well, they are riding beyond the limit. And let's have a look. Yeah, Nakano we point out that, but we've got Nakano and Hoffman. Will Kawasaki bring them in?
I'll tell you what, Shinji Nakano won't want to come in. Just look at the time gaps between them. Bayliss, Edwards, Nakano. There's around, what, 0.3 of a second between the three of them. They're absolutely going for it, those three. Shinji Nakano will not want to pack in from that. Although I'm sure the one thing he wants even less than that is an incident like he had 7 days ago at Mugello, crashing out at 200 miles an hour. Hoffman riding superbly well in 11th place as well. That will be a big shame for them.
4.5 laps to go. Gibernau has closed right up on Valentino Rossi. They break for that left-hander at the end of the back straight. They both get in tight. We've seen both of them make mistakes here previously. Well, have they run it tight? Well, Rossi runs it a little bit wide, but not enough for Gibernau to get through the right-hander. Now into this series of right-handers in the stadium section. Everybody on their feet. They're urging on Sete Gibernau in his pursuit of the world champion Valentino Rossi. Round the first part of the right-hander, and then into the second part, into the start and finish straight. The crowd in the grandstand are on their feet. Everybody's on their feet. What a battle between the two best riders in the world. Once again, 4 to go, and here comes Gibernau.
Gibernau takes the lead at the end of the straight. Can he hang it on? He's got a very, very tight line on the inside. He's going to have a job on here to hold his line on the exit. Gibernau runs it slightly wide but hangs on. Rossi just tucked in behind him. He couldn't be any closer now as they come through these right-handers. Watch the rear ends light up now as they exit this corner. 3rd gear, onto the gas they go. Gibernau steps out on the Honda. Rossi not this time on the Yamaha. Keeps a much more controlled exit on the throttle. This is the pass by Gibernau on Rossi. Had a look at the outside, then he tucked on the inside, came out of the slipstream.
Gibernau holds the advantage round the left. The end of that back straight. Through this series of left-handers. Gibernau still there. Nasty, niggly little left-handers these are before they then suddenly go through the right kick.
Up to this, over the crest of the hill there, the right-hander, 3rd gear right-hander. Gibernau just looks over his shoulder. Kenny Roberts looks over his shoulder. He's come back into the race, and his old teammate's there. And there's another Ducati down. Is that Capirossi or Bayliss? Certainly one of the Marlboro Ducatis. We're going to have a look. I'm pretty sure that is Troy Bayliss. It is indeed. The Australian is down. Troy Bayliss, who was lapping in 7th place. And he looks to be in some discomfort there on the ground in the gravel trap.
Yeah, Bayliss was involved in a great battle with Edwards, Nakano and Abe out of the race. At the front, 3 laps to go. Sete Gibernau leads the way as they cross the line. Up to 200 miles an hour. Suddenly they're going to go on those brakes. Out they go, those right knees go out. They break now for the right-hander. That's Kenny Roberts behind them, but sadly for all Americans and everybody at Suzuki, he's not in 3rd place. He's been in and made a tyre change. He's a lap down. Now, what has Rossi got left in his locker? We've seen in the past a lot more than anybody else, but Sete Gibernau is riding on adrenaline. He's riding on the rims of his wheels because there's not much rubber left for either of them.
Marco Melandri, meanwhile, having a superb ride on the way to his first MotoGP podium in third place, the former 250cc world champion. Then it's Carlos Checo. Colin Edwards, who had a terrible time in qualifying, qualified, what, 12th or 14th on the grid, in fact. 11th on the grid, to get that right eventually. But he's come through now to take 5th place ahead of Nakano. Nakano having a super ride in 6th place. It will be the best ever finish for the Kawasaki. How ironic would that be after his crash last week at Mugello?
Yajin Zhao have actually got past Nakano on the first split, but Nakano, what a race he must be having on those tyres. We've seen already 3 riders retire from the race on those rear Bridgestones, and Nakano up there battling with the likes of Zhao and Biaggi. And obviously Colin Edwards as well. Fantastic riding, and here we can see them as they're going through now.
At the front, Gibernau still leads the way, but Rossi right behind them into the stadium section. 15 against 46, it's Kenny Roberts tucked in behind them, but he's a lap down, Kenny Roberts. He's been in and made a tyre change.
He's on fresh tyres, Kenny Roberts, and it looks as though he's going to make a pass on these two. He's certainly on the fresh tyres, and he might have even stuck a qualifier on there just to give these guys a bit of stick over the last few laps. Kenny Roberts on the Suzuki in 3rd place. One way to get your bike on the TV, that's for sure. Here comes Rossi on the brakes, up on the inside of Gibernau. 2 laps to go, and Rossi leads the way once more. Can he hold on? He can. Gibernau is relegated to 2nd. The gloves are off. This is a straight battle between the Yamaha and the Honda. Now then, this is what it was like at Mugello a week ago. That got stopped by the rain. The rain is not going to stop this race. Nothing is going to stop Valentino Rossi and Sete Gibernau. And we will find out who is the king of MotoGP in 2004 so far. Is it Rossi? Is it Gibernau? Gibernau leads him by 10 points in the championship, but Rossi could be on his way to taking 5 back here.
1.5 to go. They're at Seat corner, the first gear left-hander, then swoop downhill. And these MotoGP monsters. Rossi leads the way from Gibernau. Roberts is in there, he's a lap down. He's far too experienced and sensible not to get involved in this. He'll hang in there with him. He will not get in the way. Round the right-hander.
Oh, Gibernau onto the grass, and Gibernau almost loses the rear of his Honda. That could have been nasty for Sete Gibernau. He's pushing so hard to stay with Rossi here as they come through the 2nd gear left. 55 miles an hour, and then up into the stadium section. The crowd are on their feet up there. The hooters roar. The crowd are absolutely crying for Gibernau to get back at Rossi here, but it looks as though Rossi's going to have the advantage. They come down through the 2 fast right-handers that will bring them back into the start-finish straight. Here it is, the 2nd of these 2 fast rights into the straight, and as they come across the line there will be 1 lap to go, and after 24 laps of 25, Valentino Rossi leads the home hero, Sete Gibernau.
Down the main straight they come, 210 miles an hour on the brakes. Rossi leads. Gibernau not quite close enough. As they tip it right, then they tip it left. Through the Elf chicane, then into this fast right-hander. This is where Rossi has got the bike absolutely sideways. He's opened up at a bit of an advantage, Valentino Rossi. He's on the charge. He's got his head down. Is he going to secure his 3rd Grand Prix victory of the season? The gap is not closing. Can Sete Gibernau do anything about it? Half a lap to go, round the right-hander, into the Repsol corner. Little short straight, Rossi absolutely sideways. Seat corner, the left-hander. Now has Gibernau got anything left to offer?
Gibernau's just got a couple more corners before he's going to be able to get his last chance at Rossi. They've got this tight left, then it flicks up right. Up through the hill, we saw this in the 250s. We're coming towards one of the most important corners on the circuit, and Gibernau closes in. Gibernau could be close enough here. They come over the right-hander and into the back straight. He's got to get close into this left-hander. Sete Gibernau takes a wide line into the tight left. He's not going to be close enough, surely, to make an attack on Rossi. Rossi hangs on, and now as they come up through the stadium, there's just 3 corners left for Sete Gibernau to try and attack Valentino Rossi. He gets right up on the rear wheel of the Yamaha. Is he close enough with 2 corners to go?
Rossi leads the way. They can't believe it in the crowd. Down the hill they come. 2 bends to go. A double apex right-hander. He's through the first part. He's through the second part. Valentino Rossi is going to win his 3rd Grand Prix of the season. What a performance by the Italian. Valentino Rossi does it again. Not in Mugello, but here in Catalonia. Rossi wins. Gibernau 2nd. And it looks like Marco Melandri should finish in 3rd place. He's done it again.
Wowee. Superb performance from Rossi, superb performance from Marco Melandri in third place. What a show from the two Italians and the Spaniard, and this means as much to Rossi as any other. The Italian absolutely turns over the form books here. Gibernau has led in every single session here this weekend, both sessions on Friday, both sessions on Saturday, but the man in the race is Rossi, and there he is with his great friend Melandri. They will stand on a Grand Prix podium for the first time ever, and I tell you what, they will celebrate.
Right, checker fourth. Edwards, what a performance by Colin Edwards into fifth place. Ruben Choust sixth. Nakano, well, you could almost say the performance of the weekend. The man that crashed at 200 miles an hour last weekend has finished seventh on the Kawasaki. Max Biaggi a disappointing eighth. First time he's been off the podium. Abe 9, Caparossi 10, Hoffman 11, Neil Hodgson in 12th place, and Shane Byrne in 13th.
When Rainey there raises his fist to the camera, he's a Yamaha fan, he's a Yamaha man. He was their last world champion in 1992. It's been a long, long time coming, but Yamaha are back on course, and it's all thanks to this man, Valentino Rossi, the world champion, and he exerts his authority over Sette Gibernau. Gibernau here, who conceded victory to Rossi in Italy a week ago. He so desperately wanted to turn it around here in front of his own home supporters at Catalunya. He gave everything he could, he gave his absolute best, but unfortunately for Gibernau, his best wasn't quite good enough because Valentino Rossi takes some beating.
Oh dear, what's he putting on this time? It's the doctor's outfit. We're back to being a doctor for Valentino Rossi. Just confirmation. 12th was Neil Hodgson. 13th, Shane Byrne. Andrew Pitt. Moriwaki Honda, the Australian, the former World Supersport champion, 14th. And Nobuatsu Aoki giving the Roberts KR Proton team a point in 15th place. What is going on? We're back to the old tricks, aren't we?
He's got the stethoscope on the bike. Rossi checking out the heartbeat of the Yamaha. And, well, he is the heart of MotoGP, and he's deep in the hearts of many fans around the world. And it's not just for his riding. He's the ultimate showman. The temperature's right. Everything's right with that Yamaha now that Rossi's had his way with it.
Oh dear, oh dear. And what a surprise. All the Italian photographers are in the right place at the right time for the celebration. This man, you can do what you like in your celebrations and with everything else if you can ride a motorcycle like he does. Sette Gibernau, well done Sette, great ride into second place. You still lead the World Championship by 5 points, but Rossi was quite sensational this afternoon.
Big shout for Ruben Jounce as well in 6th place. Superb effort from him. Max Biaggi, disappointing it. Shinya Nakano in 7th place. What a brave ride from him. His parents were watching him at Mugello just 7 days ago that he came off at 200 miles an hour. He was taking painkillers all weekend for his back. He was lucky that that's all he had to worry about in terms of injuries. And look how excited Marco Melandri is. He's like Marco Melandri there, we're giving a waggle like I've got a boxer dog at home, and he does that when you come home from the shops. Marco Melandri just can barely contain himself down there in Parc Fermé. And as I said before, there is going to be one heck of a celebration in the paddock when Marco Melandri and Valentino Rossi get together.
Here's Sette Gibernau. He's disappointed. Well, of course he's disappointed. Nobody likes finishing second. Nobody likes finishing second in front of his home crowd. He still leads the World Championship, and he has ridden one hell of a race. But it was a straight battle really between him and Rossi, and there was no funny circumstances as Marco Melandri celebrates that first ever podium in MotoGP.
That's just what my boxer dog does. It's that exact movement, believe me.
Well done, Marco Melandri, and a brave ride because we know he's in considerable pain from that arm that keeps pumping up. No, he hasn't come back yet, has he, Valentino Rossi's stopped out on the circuit once again. But I got to say, Sette Gibernau, I think the ride by Rossi today will make Sette Gibernau realise, probably he knew, that Rossi is perhaps still the king, and he still won more Grand Prix than him. And
yeah, and I think Gibernau has always said that. He's always realised, hasn't he? He did say from the start that Rossi, even though he was at Yamaha, he was still the man to beat. But you have to say Gibernau would be fancying his chances at this point of the season, leading the championship, home race, fastest in every session going into this race here today. He really could have expected to do well. He did do well, but you just can't hold this man down. He looks like a superhero coming in there with that cape flying on his back. He is a superhero for many people. He certainly is for us. He certainly is for this 100,000 crowd here at Catalunya. They wanted Gibernau to win, but there's no doubt that wherever Rossi goes, he's got a huge army of supporters, and he puts on such a show that you can't help but enjoy it.
I've just got another guy alongside me down here in pit lane who's had a fantastic race, an absolutely superb race. Ruben Chaus, you must be proud of that ride.
Well, it wasn't really bad because this morning on the warm-up I've got nothing. I like it, you know. The bike doesn't break, no grip at all. The fuel tank was full, so the bike was heavy, and I think I wake up really, really calm. You know, I'm not like that. You know, everybody knows that Ruben Chaus is on fire when he's on the bike. And I think I did a great start, but top speed, Troy come on the side, and I was like, oh, shh. And I brake earlier, you know. Though that cost me a little bit, but I need races because the first laps is difficult for me. I have no feeling with the front. I don't want to push hard, and it's why I'm losing right now, because I think on the mid-race I was equal as a lap times from the top, not the top two, but the 3 and 4th. You know, fighting for the podium I think could be possible here. I just need to learn and be more, believe more in myself on the first laps. But that will come with the races, so that will come.
Congratulations, Ruben, a fantastic ride.
Thank you, thank you.
well done, Ruben Chaus. That was a fantastic performance by him. He's a thoroughly nice guy, and he can mix it with the very best. But listen to the crowd. You're not in Italy, you're in Spain. At Donington Park in 2 months' time, they'll be chanting the very same name. Carlos Checa finished 4th. Good ride by Carlos Checa. Had to work very, very hard to get up there. He couldn't catch Marco Melandri. The podium awaits now. The king, the doctor, perhaps the greatest motorcycle racer of all time. Again, we have seen Valentino Rossi at his very, very best.
There's confirmation, 44 minutes and 3 seconds, 0.255. And that, I can tell you, is around 18 seconds quicker than the race time last year when Loris Capirossi won, of course. Capirossi 10th today, some points for him on the Ducati after running off. Troy Bayliss, will try and get some information for you about Troy Bayliss before we close the broadcast. Of course, he crashed out. He's been taken to the medical centre, and we'll try and get some news for that from that as soon as we can. Tete Gibernau, as Nick was saying before, very disappointed. You can see it on his face. You can understand why. But at the end of the day, as you said, when you're racing against surely one of the best of all time, it's so difficult to do any more than that.
Tete Gibernau will have a bit more of a smile when he sees those World Championship positions. 106 plays 101. It couldn't be closer. And Shinya Nakano, we just cannot speak, well, highly enough of his bravery. He's 13th in the World Championship. He rode a superb race today after many feared for his life just a week ago. Fabulous ride by Shinya Nakano.
Yeah, many people, not just does Shinya Nakano himself, you know, he actually said afterwards he thought about Daijiro Kato as he went over the top of the Kawasaki there going down the straight and slid towards the wall. He said it did go through his mind. He had a long time to think about it. He was conscious throughout the whole thing. Loris Capirossi as well, you know, he was right behind him. He said it was absolutely horrendous. He thought that Nakano was in serious trouble, but he rode so bravely. And look at these guys going, what, almost 200 miles an hour into the first corner. Everybody side by side. Rossi the bravest on the brakes to tip it in there and lead over the opening exchanges.
Rossi leads the way early on. Loris
Capirossi
having problems. He had problems throughout the race. Tete Gibernau and Rossi slugging out. Rossi in all sorts of problems. He just hangs onto the lead somehow. But then he runs it wide. Gibernau takes the lead. Alex Barros joins in the fun, battling it out there with Max Biaggi.
Just while you're going through that race, been speaking to the medical team. Troy Bayliss has been taken to the clinic of Adelaide, but concussion in his head, but they don't think anything else. He's okay, it seems, at the moment.
Thank you very much, Gavin. Far more important than watching highlights to know that Troy Bayliss sounds like he is okay. Back at the front, they're okay as well, aren't they? What a battle. Oh, Sete Gibernau, Valentino Rossi, Carlos Checa having a very good ride, the winner here in 96. But it just continued at the front. It just went on and on and on. They're not on 125. They're on MotoGP machines. And they are putting on a show that is exciting the world. Ruben Chaus, what a ride by the former World Superbike runner-up. But here we go again. It's almost Rossi shaking his head there as if to say, you can't go through there. Oh, big crash for Troy Bayliss.
No wonder he got concussion from that. That was nasty, but really good news to hear that he's going to be okay. Here's Shinya Nakano. We're on board there with Nicky Hayden. He had a battle with Nakano all through. Nicky Hayden eventually retiring from the race. And it was his old teammate Valentino Rossi, who he rode with last year at Repsol Honda. Now, of course, with Gawaz Yamaha, who took the plaudits and who will very, very shortly step up onto the top step of the podium here at Catalunya, not for the first time.
Look at those tyres. Would you ride on tyres like that at 210 miles an hour? 21 miles an hour, I wouldn't ride on tyres like that. That, I think, sums it all up quite perfectly. The Circuit de Catalunya awaits for the arrival of their heroes. Valentino Rossi, Sete Gibernau, and Marco Melandri. What a performance by the former 250cc world champion. And those girls are in for a soaking. Of that, we are absolutely certain.
Oh, I'm sure they won't mind, Nick. I'm sure they won't mind. Here comes Marco Melandri. For the first time on a MotoGP podium, the former 250cc world champion. The biggest smile in Catalunya at the moment is about to be outdone, though. Not by this man, I'm sure. Sete Gibernau will be disappointed to be up on second spot. He won the first ever motorcycle race at this circuit back in 1989 on a 125cc Cagiva Sete Gibernau. He wasn't able to emulate that in the latest race to be held here at Catalunya. Recognises the support of the crowd. So near, yet so far from that top spot. But how can you hold this man down? Valentino Rossi, the MotoGP world champion, second place. The doctor takes a reading. And a big hug there, a sincere hug as well for his good friend Marco Melandri.
Jerry Burgess, what's all this nonsense about? Hugging? Let's get on and win races. The crew chief of Valentino Rossi, what a job he has done also. Rossi has won 3 Grand Prix this year. Gibernau has won 2. Gibernau leads the World Championship. But at the beginning of the season, it was said we'd arrived at Catalunya and Rossi had brought Yamaha 3 Grand Prix victories. They'd have taken you off to that prison across the road here, I think, and putting you in a padded cell, because this man is truly phenomenal. Well done, Marco Melandri. The first time and surely not the last time we're going to see you on a MotoGP podium. Congratulations to Sete Gibernau. Great ride by Sete. You can see it in his face that he is bitterly, bitterly disappointed. But the crowd, the world salute. Surely the greatest motorcycle racer the world has ever seen. He's done it again. He's won here in Catalunya. Valentino Rossi wins in Barcelona.
For the third time this season, the Italian national anthem sounds for Valentino Rossi. Well, it's not quite the raucous chorus of 80,000 Italians at Mugello, but it's still enough to put a smile on the face of Valentino Rossi. He applauds the crowd here at Catalunya. They applaud him. What a show we've had from MotoGP's very, very finest. Valentino Rossi and Sete Gibernau, the two men of 2004 so far. Gibernau maintains his podium run. He's been on the top three for every race this season. He gets to spray the champagne once again. For Marco Melandri, it's the first time this season that he gets to enjoy the champagne, and the first time since he won the 250cc World Championship. They've all got reason to celebrate. What a day it's been here at Catalunya. The celebrations will go on long into the night in Barcelona.